You use a fork every day, don't you? For breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's so common we don't even think about it. But what if I told you that this simple object, which seems so harmless today, was once considered an instrument of the devil? The history of the fork is more bizarre, more controversial, and more fascinating than you might imagine. And this is just the first stop on our journey through the secret history of common objects. If you love unraveling the mysteries behind the obvious, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and join our community of explorers. Because today, we go into travel back in time to discover how the fork earned its place at the table. Think for a moment. How many times have you picked up a fork today? Once, twice, maybe 5 times. It's there, silent, efficient, almost invisible in its simplicity. It's one of those objects that has become such a natural extension of our hand that we rarely stop to question its existence. But this invisibility is deceptive. Behind its apparent simplicity, the fork carries centuries of history, cultural struggles, prejudices, and an evolution that has shaped not only how we eat, but also our etiquette, our cuisine, and even our perception of civility. Why does the history of such a mundane object matter? Because it reveals so much about ourselves, about how humanity adopts, rejects, and eventually standardizes innovations. And the journey of the fork is a perfect mirror of that. So, get ready. We're about to embark on a journey through time, back to the origins, to unearth the secrets of our faithful table companion. To find the first forks, we need to go back thousands of years. No, we're not talking about the fork you know today. The earliest versions were quite different. In ancient Greece and Rome, there were tools with 2 prongs, used mainly in the kitchen for skewering and serving meats, not for bringing food to the mouth. They were more like large skewers or tongs. The materials varied. The wealthier had bronze or silver forks, while the humbler used wood or bone. But the crucial point is this: they were not individual tableware. The norm was to eat with your hands, using bread to pick up food or spoons for liquids. And here's a fact that might surprise you. While the West was just beginning to explore the idea of the fork, China had already been using chopsticks for millennia. An elegant and functional solution that completely eliminated the need for a fork. 2 cultures, 2 completely different approaches to the same problem: how to get food to the mouth. But the true saga of the fork, the one that would transform it into a symbol of status and, ironically, of sin, begins to take shape in an unexpected place: the Byzantine Empire. Imagine the scene. It's the 11th century, and a Byzantine princess, Theodora Duce, arrives in Venice to marry the Doge. She brings with her a shocking innovation. For the time, a small gold object with 2 prongs, which she used to eat. The reaction: scandal. The Venetians, accustomed to eating with their hands, were horrified. The clergy, in particular, condemned the utensil. They saw the fork as an insult to God, who gave us fingers to eat with. Using a fork was considered an act of vanity, an excessive lust, an affront to divine nature. When Theodora died of an illness, many saw it as divine punishment for her impiety in using the fork. The object was literally called the devil's instrument. The resistance wasn't just religious. The European nobility was also slow to accept it. Eating with one's hands was a sign of virility, of connection to the earth. Kings and queens, like Louis XIV of France, were known for rejecting the fork, preferring the naturalness of their fingers. There are accounts that, even centuries later, in some courts, using a fork was seen as effeminate or pretentious. It's fascinating how a simple tool can generate so much controversy, isn't it? Think of other innovations that were initially rejected: the telephone, the car, even the internet. The fork was one of the first to face this cultural battle. But how did something so diabolical become so ubiquitous? The shift began slowly, but gained momentum in the Renaissance. Italy, the birthplace of the Renaissance, was the epicenter of this change. Italian cuisine, with its pastas and more elaborate dishes, benefited enormously from a utensil that allowed for handling food with more delicacy and hygiene. Italian design, always at the forefront, began to refine the fork. From 2 tines, it evolved to 3, and finally to the 4 tines we know today. Each additional tine meant more efficiency in picking up and holding food. Standardization, however, only came with the Industrial Revolution, which allowed for mass production and lowered the cost, making it accessible to more people. And it didn't stop there. Specialized forks emerged for each type of food: fish forks, dessert forks, meat forks, a veritable orchestra of cutlery for each dish. But here's another interesting fact. Even with all this popularization, some cultures, such as Indian and Ethiopian, maintain their traditions of eating with their hands or with bread, proving that the fork, despite its victory in the West, is not a global consensus. The arrival of the fork was not just a change of tool. It was a revolution in etiquette and culinary arts. Suddenly, eating with your hands, which was once natural, became rude and uncivilized. The fork became a social marker. Knowing how to use a fork correctly, which hand, which fork for which dish became a sign of good manners and refinement. Think about the cultural differences: the European style, where the fork remains in the left hand, and the American style, where it is switched to the right hand. Small details that reveal big cultural differences. And in cooking, the fork allowed for the development of more complex and delicate dishes. Long pastas, salads with thin leaves, and sauces that would previously have been impossible to handle with your hands or a spoon could now be enjoyed with elegance. The texture of food also changed. Cooks could worry less about the grip of the food and more about the flavor and presentation. The fork not only served at the table, it transformed the table. And to close with a flourish, get ready for some mind-blowing curiosities about this very common object. The most expensive fork in the world. Ever thought about an 18-karat gold fork, studded with diamonds, worth over $10,000? Yes, it exists. Old versus modern forks. Old forks were often made of softer materials, like silver, and wore out faster. Today's stainless steel forks are virtually indestructible. Superstitions. In many cultures, dropping a fork means an unexpected visitor is on the way. And if it lands, tines up, good luck. Tines down, bad luck. And finally, forks in museums. Yes, forks are museum pieces. Some of the oldest and most ornate examples are considered works of art and tell the story of goldsmithing and social customs. Who would have thought that such a simple object could hold so many stories and mysteries, right? From the devil's instrument to the indispensable companion of our meals. The fork's journey shows us that even the most mundane objects have a rich and complex history. They are small pieces of human identity, reflecting our beliefs, our fears, and our constant search for innovation. And this was just the first stop. In the next episode of The Secret History of Common Objects, we'll uncover the secrets of another item you use every day without thinking. How about the story of the toothbrush? Or maybe the button? Leave your suggestion in the comments. What was the most surprising fact about the fork? Do you have any superstitions about cutlery? Share your opinion below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your curious friends. At our channel, curiosity is always the goal. Until next time,